The scent of braised pork belly filled the kitchen. I had been standing in front of the stove for 3 hours, wearing an apron Shen Zhiyi bought me 5 years ago from a supermarket clearance bin. The words "kiss the cook" were half faded, but I still wore it every year on this day.
August 16th.
Our 8th wedding anniversary?
I set the table myself. Bone china plates, fresh lilies in a crystal vase, candles I lit one by one.
Everything was ready by 7.
Shen Zhiyi always came home around 7:30 if she wasn't working late. I checked my phone. No message.
That was normal.
At 8:20, the front door finally clicked open. I stood up, wiping my hands on the apron, a smile already forming.
Then I heard it.
2 sets of footsteps. One was the sharp, commanding click of stilettos I knew too well. The other was the casual, almost lazy stride of a man. Shen Zhiyi walked into the dining room like a queen inspecting her territory. She was still in her white power suit, the one I had custom-made for her in Milan. Her hair was pulled back tight, her makeup flawless. Behind her, wearing a smirk and a cheap blazer, stood a young man I recognized immediately. Xu Zhao, the intern. Shen Zhiyi's eyes swept past the candles, the flowers, the steaming dishes. Her expression didn't soften. Instead, she frowned.
"Why are you still here, Qin Yu?"
she said. The question landed like a fist. 8 years. 8 wedding anniversaries. And she asked why I was still here. Before I could answer, Xu Zhao tilted his head and let out a short laugh. "So this is the husband, Zhiyi? The one who stays home and cooks?" He said husband the way someone might say cockroach. Something inside me went very still, very quiet. But I kept my face blank. I had gotten very good at that over the years.
Shen Zhiyi didn't correct him.
She didn't even glance his way.
She just kept staring at me with those cold, beautiful eyes I had once fallen in love with. "I made your favorite," I said, keeping my voice even. "Braised pork." It took 3 hours. She walked toward me, each step deliberate. The candlelight flickered. Xu Zhao leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Watching like this was his personal entertainment. 3 hours, Shen Zhiyi repeated, stopping a foot away from me. 3 hours cooking.
8 years doing nothing.
Do you know what I did today, Qin Yu? I finalized the IPO paperwork. Zhihui Group is going public in 3 days.
And what did you do?
You boiled meat, then she slapped me.
The sound cracked through the dining room like a whip. My head snapped to the side. The taste of iron bloomed on my tongue. One of the candles went out. I turned my head back slowly. Shen Zhiyi was shaking her hand, as if hitting me had been a physical inconvenience. Her eyes were bright, almost feverish. Behind her, Xu Zhao's smirk had widened into a full grin. 8 years, Qin Yu, she spat. 8 years I let you live in my house, spend my money, eat my food. And tonight I realized I don't have to do it anymore. She reached into her Hermes bag, the bag I had waited in line 6 hours to buy for her birthday. She pulled out a black card and threw it at my chest. It bounced off and clattered to the floor. "That's the last thing you'll ever get from me," she said.
Take it.
Buy yourself a hotel room tonight.
"Tomorrow I want you gone. Take your things and get out of my house." Her house. I looked down at the black card lying on the marble floor. It was a Centurion card, the one I had given her 5 years ago after she complained about the platinum limits. She had kissed me then, told me I was the most thoughtful husband in the world. Now she was throwing it at me like pocket change. Xu Zhao sauntered forward and put his hand on the small of Shen Zhiyi's back. The gesture was intimate.
Possessive.
He looked at me and said, "You heard her. Time to go, uncle. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Uncle, I was 32 years old. This kid couldn't have been older than 24. I bent down and picked up the black card. I turned it over in my fingers. The card was made of anodized titanium. On the back, engraved in tiny letters, was the name of the primary account holder. It was not Shen Zhiyi. It never had been. My name was on this card. It was my account, my credit line, my money. Shen Zhiyi had never once asked where the money came from. She just assumed.
She had always assumed.
I pocketed the card and straightened my apron. The candle on the far end of the table guttered and died.
I looked at Shen Zhiyi.
Really looked at her. The woman I had loved since university. The woman I had built an empire for in secret, just so she could chase her dream of being a CEO without ever knowing who held the real power. "Shen Zhiyi," I said quietly, "before I leave, I want you to remember one thing."
She rolled her eyes.
What?
"That you love me? Spare me the soap opera." "No," I said. I walked past her, toward the front door. I paused with my hand on the handle. "Remember who actually owns this villa? You might want to check the property deed." I didn't wait for her reaction. I opened the door and stepped into the cool autumn night. Behind me, I heard Xu Zhao laugh nervously.
What's he talking about? Zhiyi?
Nothing, Shen Zhiyi said, but her voice had lost some of its edge. Hess bluffing. The house is in the company's name. No.
It wasn't.
I walked down the driveway to the old black Audi parked at the curb, the one I drove when I was playing the role of the useless husband. I got in, closed the door, and sat in the dark for a long moment. The sting on my cheek was fading into a dull warmth. The taste of blood was already gone. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in 3 years. It rang once. Mr. Qin, a deep voice answered immediately. It's been a long time.
Lu Feng, I said.
Do you still handle my personal affairs?
Always, sir.
Good. I need you to do 3 things tonight. First, freeze every credit card linked to Shen Zhiyi's name.
All of them.
The Centurion, the Platinum, the corporate Amex. She doesn't get to use another dime of my money. Understood.
The second,
Change the locks on the villa.
she can pick up her clothes tomorrow with an escort.
The property is in my personal name. Send a copy of the deed to her office first thing in the morning.
I want her to see it before her coffee.
And the third, sir?
I started the car. The engine hummed quietly. Through the villa's front window, I could see Shen Zhiyi and Xu Zhao sitting at my dinner table. He was eating my braised pork with his fingers. She was laughing. The third thing, I said, pulling away from the curb, cancel the transfer of Zhihui Group shares that was scheduled for tomorrow.
All 51% of them.
She won't be getting a controlling stake after all. There was a pause.
Then Lu Feng said, Sir, does Mrs. Qin know that you own 75% of Zhihui Group?
No, I said.
She thinks she built it from the ground up. She thinks the board appointed her CEO because of her talent. She thinks the IPO is her victory. I turned onto the main road, leaving the villa behind. The city lights stretched out before me, a million tiny stars embedded in concrete. I had built half these buildings. She just didn't know it. Sir, Lu Feng said carefully, should I also prepare the evidence files?
The ones you asked me to collect over the years?
Yes, I said. All of them. The hotel receipts, the property purchases,
The car.
every single transaction she made using company funds for that intern. I want everything ready for the IPO press conference in 3 days.
It will be done, Mr.
Qin.
I ended the call and tossed the phone onto the passenger seat. The Audi wasn't my real car. My real car was a Maybach parked in a private garage downtown, next to a penthouse with my name on the deed. I had a life Shen Zhiyi had never bothered to learn about. A life I had hidden so she could feel powerful, so she could feel successful, so she could love me without resenting me. What a fool I had been. But the game wasn't over. It was just beginning.
I didn't go to a hotel.
I drove straight to the penthouse. The building was called Azure Tower, 68 floors of glass and steel cutting into the city skyline. I parked the Audi in the underground garage, took the private elevator to the top floor, and stepped into 5,000 square feet of silence. The automatic lights flickered on. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the entire city, lights glittering like scattered diamonds. I kicked off my shoes and walked to the bar. No apron now. No role to play. I poured myself a glass of whiskey.
Macallan 25.
Shen Zhiyi didn't know I drank whiskey. She thought I only drank the cheap green tea she bought from the supermarket. I swirled the amber liquid and stared out the window.
8 years.
I needed to trace it all back. I needed to see the pattern clearly before I crushed it. It started in university. I was a nobody then, at least on the surface. My family, the Qin clan, had erased my name from every rich list, every media database, every public record. My grandfather's rule was simple. Before you inherit billions, you learn what it means to be invisible. So I went to university as a scholarship student.
Worn out shoes. Second-hand textbooks.
Instant noodles for dinner. Shen Zhiyi was in the same business program. She was brilliant, fierce, hungry. She had grown up poor, and she hated it. She hated it so much that she turned ambition into a sharp, beautiful weapon. I fell for her the moment I saw her argue a professor into changing his grading rubric. For 2 years, I was just the quiet boy who sat in the back row, and always seemed to have enough money to lend her for textbooks. She never questioned it. She just took the cash and promised to pay me back.
She never did.
After graduation, I proposed. We registered our marriage at a tiny civil affairs office.
No wedding, no ring.
She said those things were a waste of money.
I agreed, because I would have agreed to anything she said.
I told her I had a small inheritance from my late parents. Enough to start something.
She believed me.
I used that lie to funnel 30 million yuan into opening a consulting firm.
I put her name on the door.
Shen Zhiyi, CEO, I stayed in the background, handling contracts, fixing problems, paying off officials, doing all the dirty work while she stood on stages and accepted awards. Within 3 years, the firm became Zhiyi Group. Within 5, we were a major player in tech investment. Within 7, we were preparing for an IPO. And through it all, Shen Zhiyi believed she had done it alone.
Every morning, she looked in the mirror and saw a self-made woman.
I let her see that.
It made her happy. And making her happy was the only thing I ever wanted. The first crack appeared 4 years. I noticed the business trips were getting longer, the late nights more frequent. I found a receipt in her jacket once for a men's watch. Not my style.
I said nothing.
Then my private investigator started sending reports. A young man.
A college student she had taken on as an intern.
Xu Zhao. The reports were clinical. Dates, locations,
Photographs.
She had rented him an apartment in the financial district. She bought him a Porsche. She took him on vacations to Bali and told me they were client meetings. For 4 years, I read every report. For 4 years, I filed every receipt, every transaction, every shred of evidence.
Not because I was too weak to act.
Because I was waiting for the right moment. The moment when it would hurt her the most. The IPO.
That was the moment.
I took a sip of whiskey and walked to the study. The walls were lined with monitors. I turned one on and opened a folder labeled Assets Transfer. Inside were records of 47 unauthorized transactions. Shen Zhiyi had been siphoning company funds into a private account and using them to support Xu Zhao's lifestyle. 2.6 million for the Porsche. 800,000 for a luxury condo down payment. Monthly transfers of 50,000 yuan labeled consulting fees that went straight into Xu Zhao's pocket. In total, over the past 4 years, she had spent almost 7 million yuan of company money on that boy.
My money.
All of it.
And the most beautiful part?
Every transaction was traceable. Every signature was hers.
She thought she was clever. She thought the company was hers to drain.
She had no idea that the company's real owner had been watching, waiting, collecting. I sat down at the desk and opened my laptop. An email from Lu Feng was already waiting.
Subject, asset freeze complete.
I opened it. Shen Zhiyi's cards were dead. All of them. Her Centurion, her Amex, her personal debit card, even the corporate card linked to her CEO expenses. She was, at this very moment, cut off from every source of funds she had.
Except one. Her phone.
I smiled. Lu Feng was thorough. He would have left her mobile wallet active just long enough for her to receive a single notification. A notification saying that her scheduled share transfer had been cancelled.
I could imagine her face.
The confusion first.
Then the fear. Then the rage.
She would call me.
I knew she would, and I would let it ring. I leaned back in my chair and looked at the ceiling. 8 years. For 8 years I was her cash machine. A quiet, invisible engine pumping money into her dreams while she spent it on a 24-year-old boy with a nice smile and nothing else. She never once asked where the money came from.
She never once asked why every contract she wanted got signed.
Why every rival bent the knee.
Why every government official returned her calls. She just assumed it was her own brilliance, her own charisma. Vanity is a blinding thing. My phone buzzed. Not Shen Zhiyi. It was another number I knew well. I answered. Speak. Boss, it's Han Sen. I'm outside the villa.
You told me to watch.
What's happening?
Han Sen chuckled. About 10 minutes ago, the lights started flickering like crazy. Then Mrs.
Qin came running out to her car.
The intern was chasing after her, shouting. She tried to start the Porsche you bought her. The one you registered in your name. But we already swapped the keys. I took another sip of whiskey.
And?
She lost it. Started screaming at the intern. He tried to calm her down. She shoved him. Then she pulled out her phone and tried to call someone. Probably a locksmith. I made sure no one within 10 miles will take her call tonight.
Good.
What about Xu Zhao? He looked rattled. He kept asking her what was going on. She couldn't answer. Eventually, they got into his car instead.
A white Audi A4.
They drove off about 5 minutes ago. I've got someone tailing them. I set the glass down.
Keep watching.
Don't let them back into that house.
Already handled.
The locks are changed.
Her fingerprint has been deleted from the security system. She's locked out of her own office building too, by the way.
I sent the order an hour ago.
The night guard is one of ours.
Perfect.
One more thing, boss, Han Sen said. The kid, Xu Zhao. I ran a deeper background check like you asked. Turns out he's not just a pretty face.
Has been talking to some of our competitors.
A company called Hengyuan Capital. Looks like he was planning to jump ship after the IPO and take some of our client data with him.
Industrial espionage.
I sat up straighter.
This was new.
This was useful.
How much data has he taken?
Not much yet.
Has been careful.
But we caught him downloading some files onto a personal drive 3 days ago.
We have the logs.
It's enough to bring a criminal case.
Industrial espionage.
That was a beautiful phrase. It meant jail time. It meant public disgrace. It meant Xu Zhao's career would be over before it began. Save everything, I said.
Catalog it.
Timestamp it.
Make it bulletproof.
Already done. I ended the call and stared out the window again. The city was still and bright and indifferent. Somewhere out there, Shen Zhiyi was probably in a panic, sitting in her intern's cheap car, trying to figure out how her perfect world had collapsed in a single night. She had no idea how much worse it was going to get. I opened another file on my laptop. The IPO press conference was in 3 days. She would be on stage, in front of cameras and journalists and investors, ready to crown herself the queen of a billion-yuan empire. She would be wearing a new dress. She would have prepared a speech. I had prepared something too.
A video.
8 years of evidence. 7 million yuan in embezzled funds. A trail of betrayal so clear and so damning that no board of directors in the world could ignore it. I closed the laptop and finished my whiskey. The burn felt good.
Clean.
For the first time in 8 years, I wasn't the quiet husband in the apron. I wasn't the invisible cash machine. I wasn't the man she thought she could slap and throw away like trash. I was Qin Yu, and she had just made the biggest mistake of her life. I woke up at 6 the next morning with a clear head and no regrets. The penthouse was quiet. Sunlight cut through the floor-to-ceiling windows and painted golden stripes across the marble floor. I made myself a cup of black coffee and sat down at the study desk.
My phone had 37 missed calls.
All from Shen Zhiyi. I cleared the notifications without reading a single one. Lu Feng had sent a new encrypted file at 3 in the morning. Subject, Xu Zhao, preliminary findings. I opened it and started reading. The first page alone made me set down my coffee cup. Xu Zhao was smarter than he looked. For the past 6 months, he had been quietly positioning himself as something more than a kept boy. He had requested access to Zhihui Group's client database 3 separate times, each request signed off by Shen Zhiyi herself. The official reason was market research for the IPO roadshow. The real reason was sitting right there in black and white on my screen. He had downloaded the full contact list of our top 200 corporate clients. Phone numbers, email addresses, contract values, renewal dates. Everything a competitor would need to gut us from the inside. And he hadn't stopped there. Bank records showed 4 wire transfers from a shell company called Bright Horizon Consulting to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. The shell company was registered under Xu Zhao's mother's name. The amounts were small, just testing the waters. 50,000 yuan here, 20,000 there. But the pattern was undeniable. He was building a pipeline, a way to move money out of Zhihui Group and into his own pocket. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. The kid wasn't just sleeping with my wife. He was trying to steal my company. I picked up my phone and called Han Sen. He answered on the first ring.
Boss.
The Bright Horizon Consulting account.
Who opened it?
Xu Zhao's mother, but she's 72 years old and lives in a nursing home in Chengdu. She hasn't touched a computer in her life. The kid is using her identity as a front.
And the Cayman account?
We traced it. It was opened 8 months ago with a deposit of 100,000 US dollars. The source of that deposit is interesting.
How interesting?
It came from a corporate account belonging to Hengyuan Capital, specifically a subsidiary called Hengyuan Strategic Investments, the same company Xu Zhao has been meeting with. I felt a cold smile spread across my face. So the intern was on someone else's payroll. He wasn't just a gold digger. He was a corporate spy. Shen Zhiyi had brought a viper into our bed and called it love. Can you prove the meeting happened? I asked.
We have photographs.
Last Tuesday, 3 in the afternoon, Xu Zhao met a man named Director Wei from Hengyuan Capital at a tea house in the old city. They talked for 2 hours. Our guy got clear shots through the window.
We also have a partial audio recording from a directional mic.
What did they talk about?
Data transfer. Director Wei promised Xu Zhao a vice president position after the IPO, plus a signing bonus of 5 million yuan if he could deliver Ziwi's client list and the financial projections for the next fiscal year. Xu Zhao said he could do it before the IPO press conference. He said, and I quote, "The CEO will sign anything I put in front of her." The CEO, his lover, the woman who had slapped her husband for cooking her dinner.
Shen Zhiyi, you poor blind fool.
Boss Han Sen continued, "We have enough to bring the police in right now. Industrial espionage, embezzlement, identity fraud. This kid is looking at 10 years minimum." Not yet, I said. If we arrest him now, he's just a small-time criminal. Shen Zhiyi will play the victim. She'll cry in front of the cameras and say she was manipulated. The board might even feel sorry for her.
No.
I want him to dig his own grave deeper. I want the whole world to see what she brought into our company.
There was a pause.
Then Han Sen said, "What do you need me to do?" I opened a new folder on my computer. It was labeled Trap. Inside were decoy files I had prepared months ago, just in case. "I'm uploading a fake client list," I said. "It looks real. Names, numbers, contract details. But every single entry has a tiny error embedded in it. A wrong digit in a phone number. A contract date shifted by 1 day. If Xu Zhao delivers this list to Hengyuan Capital, we can prove beyond any doubt that he stole it from us. The errors are unique. They're our digital fingerprint.
So we let him steal it.
We do more than that.
We make it easy for him.
Send an anonymous tip to IT that Xu Zhao's access permissions need to be upgraded for the IPO prep.
Give him temporary access to the full database.
Let him think he's getting away with the heist of the century." Han Sen chuckled. It was a dark sound. And then we wait.
The press conference is in 2 days.
He'll try to deliver the data before then.
The moment he hands it over to Hengyuan, we move.
We arrest him.
We arrest Director Wei. We leak the story to every financial news outlet in the country. By the time Shen Zhiyi walks on that stage, her name will be linked to a corporate spy. I could almost hear Han Sen grinning through the phone.
You want to destroy her completely.
"No," I said quietly. "I want her to destroy herself. I'm just turning on the lights so everyone can watch." I ended the call and finished my coffee.
The city outside the window was waking up.
Streets filling with cars, office towers blinking with lights. Somewhere out there, Shen Zhiyi was probably waking up in a cheap hotel room, next to a boy who was selling her secrets to the highest bidder. She didn't know it yet.
But she would.
My phone buzzed again.
Not a missed call this time.
A text message from Shen Zhiyi.
Qin Yu, we need to talk.
"This is not over.
You think you can freeze my cards and lock me out of my own house?
I have lawyers.
I will destroy you.
Meet me tonight.
8 o'clock.
Azure Tower Restaurant."
Don't you dare ignore this.
I read the message twice.
Azure Tower Restaurant.
The restaurant on the ground floor of my building. The building she didn't know I owned. She had picked my territory for her ambush. I typed a reply. 3 words. "I'll be there." Then I spent the rest of the morning setting the trap. I called Lu Feng and instructed him to upgrade Xu Zhao's access. I called the head of my cybersecurity team and told him to monitor every single file Xu Zhao touched, every keystroke, every USB drive insertion. I called the private investigator who had been following Shen Zhiyi for 4 years and told him to double his efforts.
By noon, the trap was set.
The fake client list was loaded into the database.
Xu Zhao's new access permissions were active.
And a hidden tracking program was installed on every file in the IPO confidential folder. The moment he copied those files onto an external drive, the program would embed itself in the data and start transmitting his location, his device information, and every single person he shared the files with. That was my first chess piece.
Small,
Quiet, invisible, but it would win me the entire board. I spent the afternoon reviewing the rest of the evidence against Shen Zhiyi.
The hotel receipts.
The property deeds for the apartment she had bought Xu Zhao. The bank statements showing the Porsche payments. It was a mountain of betrayal, and I had collected every single stone. At 7 o'clock, I put on a simple black suit.
No tie.
I looked at myself in the mirror. The same face that had been slapped 36 hours ago. The same face that had been called useless. The same face that had bent over a stove for 3 hours making braised pork for a woman who no longer loved me. But the eyes were different now. They were calm, focused.
Deadly?
I took the private elevator down to the Azure Tower restaurant.
I had reserved the entire floor for the night.
The maitre d' bowed when he saw me.
Mr.
Qin,
Your guest has not arrived yet.
shall I show you to your table?
Yes, I said.
And when she arrives, make her wait 5 minutes before you let her in.
Of course, sir.
I sat down at the center table. A single candle flickered in front of me. The restaurant was empty, silent, filled with the smell of fresh linen and aged wine. I ordered a bottle of Romanée Conti.
Not because I wanted to drink it.
Because I knew Shen Zhiyi would recognize the label. She had always wanted to taste it.
She thought it was too expensive. She didn't know I owned 3 cases.
I was going to serve her the most expensive wine of her life, and she would choke on it. At 8:15, the elevator doors opened. I heard heels clicking across the marble. Sharp, aggressive. Shen Zhiyi walked into the restaurant with a manila folder under her arm and a lawyer trailing behind her. She was wearing a red dress.
War colors.
She didn't sit down.
She threw the folder onto the table.
It landed next to the wine bottle with a loud slap. "Sign it," she said. I didn't touch the folder. I just looked at her. Her makeup was heavier than usual. It couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes.
She hadn't slept well.
Good.
Sign what?
I asked, even though I already knew. The divorce settlement, she said.
You get nothing.
You leave quietly. In exchange, I won't sue you for everything you've done. Freezing my accounts, changing the locks.
That's illegal, Qin Yu.
I can have you arrested. I smiled. Arrested for changing the locks on my own house? It's not your house. Check the deed. Her face twitched. She had checked the deed. I could see it in her eyes. She knew the house was in my name.
She knew the cars were in my name?
She knew for the first time in 8 years that she had nothing. But she was still fighting. That was the thing about Shen Zhiyi. She never surrendered. Even when she was wrong. Even when she was drowning.
None of that matters, she said.
Under marital property law, half of everything acquired during the marriage belongs to me. That includes Zhihui Group.
I built that company.
I am its CEO. The IPO is happening because of me.
You can't take that away?
I picked up the folder and flipped through the pages. It was a standard divorce agreement. She wanted full ownership of the villa, 60% of Zhihui Group shares, and a one-time cash payment of 20 million yuan for emotional damages.
I almost laughed.
Emotional damages. She had spent my money on another man for 4 years, and she wanted me to pay her.
Do you have a pen?
I asked. The lawyer stepped forward and handed me a Mont Blanc. Shen Zhiyi's eyes widened slightly. She hadn't expected me to agree so easily. I uncapped the pen and signed my name on every page. 23 signatures. I didn't read the fine print. I didn't need to. When I finished, I slid the folder back across the table. The candle flickered.
Shen Zhiyi grabbed the folder and checked the signatures.
A slow smile spread across her face. It was the smile of a woman who thought she had won.
Good boy, she said.
That wasn't so hard, was it?
I poured myself a glass of Romanée Conti. The wine was dark red, almost black in the candlelight. I swirled it once and took a sip. Shen Zhiyi, I said. Do you know why I signed that agreement? Because you know you've lost.
No, I said.
I signed it because that document isn't worth the paper it's printed on.
Her smile froze.
The lawyer frowned.
What are you talking about?
She said. I set down the wine glass and looked her straight in the eyes. That agreement assumes there is marital property to divide.
But there isn't.
Every asset you think you own is held in my personal name, or in trusts you have no legal connection to.
The villa.
The cars. The Zhihui Group shares.
You don't own any of it.
You never did.
Her face went pale.
That's a lie.
It's not. Check with your lawyer.
The company was never in your name.
You were appointed CEO by a board you didn't know I controlled. The shares you thought were yours were actually being held in a custodial account that I can revoke at any time. You have no equity. No ownership.
No claim.
The lawyer was already pulling out his phone, typing frantically. Shen Zhiyi grabbed the edge of the table. Her knuckles were white.
I built that company, she whispered.
You think you did, I said.
But every major contract was negotiated by my back channels. Every competitor who backed down did so because I made them. Every investor who funded your projects did so because I guaranteed the capital.
You were the face, Shen Zhiyi.
But I was the foundation.
And you just slapped the foundation and told it to leave. She stared at me. For the first time in 8 years, she had nothing to say. I stood up and placed my napkin on the table. Enjoy the wine. It's worth more than your intern makes in a year. And by the way, you might want to ask Xu Zhao about his meeting last Tuesday with Director Wei from Hengyuan Capital.
I think you'll find it educational.
I walked past her, toward the elevator. Her lawyer was still typing. She was frozen in place, the signed agreement limp in her hand. As the elevator doors closed, I saw her grab the wine bottle and hurl it against the wall. The sound of shattering glass followed me all the way up to the penthouse. That was the second chess piece.
The trap.
The noose.
Now all that was left was to tighten it. The shattered wine bottle was still being cleaned up when I sat back down in my study. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt disgusted. The look on Shen Zhiyi's face when I told her she owned nothing. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it just felt like the end of something that had been dead for a long time. I had loved her once. I had loved her so much that I erased my own name from the story of her success just so she could feel proud of herself. And she had repaid that love by sleeping with a boy young enough to be her little brother, by spending my money on him, by slapping me in front of him and calling me useless. She deserved everything that was coming. And I was going to deliver it. My phone rang. Hansen. Boss, the fish took the bait. I sat up straighter. Xu Zhao copied the entire fake client list onto a portable drive about 20 minutes ago. He left the office and went straight to a parking garage on Huaihai Road. He met someone in a black Mercedes. Our guys got clear video. The man in the Mercedes is Director Wei from Hengyuan Capital. They exchanged a package. We have it all on tape. I closed my eyes and let the satisfaction wash over me. The trap had worked perfectly. Xu Zhao had stolen the decoy files and handed them to a competitor. That was corporate espionage. That was a criminal offense. That was the end of his career, his freedom, and Shen Zhiyi's reputation all at once. When do we move? Han Sen asked. The IPO press conference is the day after tomorrow, I said. I want the arrest to happen publicly.
Very publicly.
Can you coordinate with the Economic Crimes Division?
Already done.
I have a contact there. They're ready to move on my signal.
Good.
Hold until the conference.
I want every camera in the city pointed at Jihui Group when this breaks.
Understood. I hung up and checked my watch. It was almost 10 at night. Shen Zhiyi was probably still in the restaurant. Or maybe she had gone somewhere to cry. Either way, I had one more thing to prepare. The IPO press conference. I pulled up the guest list on my computer.
300 people. Major investors.
Financial journalists.
Government officials.
The mayor's office had confirmed the stock exchange chairman was attending. It was going to be the biggest event in Jihui Group's history. And I was going to turn it into a funeral. I spent the next 2 hours organizing the evidence package.
I created a slide deck.
50 slides.
Every hotel receipt.
Every bank transfer. Every photo of Shen Zhiyi and Xu Zhao together. The embezzlement records. The industrial espionage evidence. I arranged it all in chronological order, like a story. A story of greed and betrayal and stupidity. Then I created the final slide. It was a single line of text in bold black letters on a white background. She spent my money on her intern for 8 years. Today, I'm taking it all back. I saved the file and stared at it for a long moment. The day after tomorrow, the slide deck would be projected onto a 30-meter screen in front of 300 people. Every journalist in the room would have their phones out. Every investor would be watching. The stock would not survive. Shen Zhiyi's career would not survive. I closed the laptop and walked to the window. The city was asleep now. A few scattered lights. A few late-night cars. The Azure Tower stood above it all, silent and indifferent. Tomorrow, I would call a special board meeting. I would inform them that their CEO had been embezzling funds and protecting a corporate spy. I would present the evidence and demand a vote of no confidence. Every single board member was someone I had appointed, someone who owed their position to me. The vote would be unanimous. Then, the day after that, the press conference.
The grand finale.
I thought about Shen Zhiyi. Somewhere out there, she was probably trying to figure out how to salvage this. Maybe she was calling lawyers.
Maybe she was screaming at Xu Zhao.
Maybe she was sitting alone in a dark room, finally realizing that the man she had despised for 8 years was the only person who had ever truly supported her. It didn't matter. The machine was already in motion. There was no stopping it now. I went to bed and slept better than I had in years. The next morning, I woke up to chaos. My phone was exploding. 17 new messages, mostly from Lu Feng and Han Sen. I grabbed a coffee and started reading. First message, Xu Zhao's mother is being questioned by police in Chengdu.
She confirmed she never opened any business accounts.
She also confirmed her son has been giving her money she didn't recognize. Second message, Hengyuan Capital is panicking. Director Wei went on sudden leave this morning. Their stock dropped 4% in pre-market trading. Someone leaked that they're under investigation. Third message, Shen Zhiyi has been calling every board member since 6 in the morning.
No one is answering.
They all know something is coming. Fourth message, the special board meeting is scheduled for 4 o'clock this afternoon.
All members confirmed.
I smiled into my coffee cup. Shen Zhiyi was running around trying to put out fires. She didn't even know I had started.
The board was ignoring her.
Her lover was about to be arrested, and she still didn't understand the full picture. At 9 o'clock, I got the call I had been waiting for. It was Shen Zhiyi's personal number. I let it ring 3 times before answering.
Qin Yu.
Her voice was hoarse.
She had been crying. Or screaming.
Or both.
What have you done?
Good morning to you too, I said.
Don't play games with me. The board won't take my calls.
My lawyer says my name is not on any of the property records.
Xu Zhao is hiding in his apartment and won't come out.
What did you do, Qin Yu?
What did you tell them?
I didn't tell anyone anything yet, I said honestly. But I will. At 4 o'clock today, in presenting evidence to the board of directors. Evidence that you have been embezzling company funds for 4 years. Evidence that you knowingly protected an employee who was committing corporate espionage. Evidence that you are no longer fit to be CEO.
Silence.
A long, horrible silence. Then, in a small voice, she said, "You wouldn't.
I already signed your divorce agreement.
Remember, you said I was to get nothing. So now you have your wish. I'm walking away. But I'm taking my company with me.
It's not your company?
Check the incorporation documents, Shen Zhiyi. Article 7.
The founder's clause.
I own 75% of the voting shares.
Always have.
You were just the employee I put in the big chair.
She started to say something, but her voice cracked and broke.
I waited.
No more words came.
I'll see you at the board meeting, I said.
Or maybe I won't.
You might be too busy talking to the police by then.
I hung up before she could respond. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of preparations. I met with Lu Feng and went over every piece of evidence. I rehearsed my presentation to the board. I coordinated with Han Sen on the arrest operation for Xu Zhao.
Everything was falling into place.
At 3:30, I put on the same black suit I had worn the night before. The same suit I had worn when Shen Zhiyi threw a settlement agreement at me. The same suit I would wear when I walked into the boardroom and ended her career. I took the elevator down to the parking garage. My Maybach was waiting.
Not the old Audi.
Not the disguise.
The real car.
The car of a man who owned 75% of a billion-yuan company. As I pulled out of the garage, my phone buzzed one last time. It was a message from Shen Zhiyi. 3 words. Please don't do this. I deleted it and kept driving. The time for mercy had passed 8 years ago. On the first night she came home with another man's cologne on her collar.
I just hadn't known it then.
Now I knew.
Now, everyone was going to know.
The boardroom of Zhihui Group occupied the entire 58th floor of the financial tower. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped around 3 sides, offering a panoramic view of the city. On a clear day, you could see all the way to the river. Today was not a clear day. Gray clouds hung low, heavy with rain that hadn't fallen yet.
I arrived at 3:45.
15 minutes early. The long mahogany table was already set. 16 leather chairs, each with a name card and a bottle of mineral water. I walked to the head of the table and stood behind the chair reserved for the chairman.
I didn't sit down.
Not yet. One by one, the board members filed in. 12 men and 4 women in dark suits and careful expressions. They were all here.
Every single one.
That was unusual. Board members were busy people. They missed meetings, sent proxies, arrived late. But today, everyone was on time.
Word had spread.
Something was happening.
Something big.
I recognized every face.
Director Chen, the old investment banker who had backed Zhihui when it was just 3 employees in a rented office. Director Wang, the tech mogul who sat on 7 other boards but always returned my calls within 5 minutes. Director Li, the quiet woman who managed a 2 billion yuan private equity fund and had never once questioned my judgment. I had chosen each of them personally. I had cultivated their loyalty over years of dinners, golf games, and confidential phone calls. They were my people. They just didn't know it yet. Or maybe some of them did. Director Chen caught my eye as he took his seat. He gave me a small nod, a knowing nod. He had figured it out. The old man was too sharp not to. The door opened again at exactly 4 o'clock. Shen Zhiyi walked. She looked terrible.
Her white suit was wrinkled.
Her hair, usually pulled back so tight it stretched her forehead, was loose and messy. Her makeup was smeared at the corners of her eyes. She had been crying. Everyone in the room could see it. She scanned the table, looking for a friendly face. She found none.
Then she saw me.
Standing at the head of the table.
You, she said.
Her voice was a mixture of shock and fury.
You don't belong here.
This is a board meeting.
You're not a board member?
Security.
Someone call security.
No one moved.
Sit down, Shen Zhiyi, I said calmly. You're already late. Don't make this harder.
She didn't sit.
She pointed a trembling finger at me and looked around the table, searching for support. Are you all going to let this happen?
Hez my husband.
My soon-to-be ex-husband. He has no authority here. He doesn't own shares. He doesn't have a seat.
Has just a what?
I interrupted.
A useless man who cooks dinner?
A cash machine you threw away?
Director Chen cleared his throat.
Madam Shen, please take your seat.
This meeting has been called by a majority shareholder. It is fully compliant with the company's articles of association. Shen Zhiyi froze. A majority shareholder? Who? I reached into my jacket and pulled out a thin folder. I tossed it onto the table. It slid across the polished wood and stopped right in front of her.
You should read that.
Article 7 of the incorporation documents.
The founder's clause?
She grabbed the folder with shaking hands and flipped it open. Her eyes scanned the pages. I watched her face change.
Confusion.
Disbelief.
Horror. The document was simple.
It had been drafted by the best corporate lawyers money could buy, and it stated one thing very clearly. The founder of Zhihui Group was Qin Yu. The controlling shareholder was Qin Yu. Every share Shen Zhiyi believed she owned was actually held in a trust controlled by Qin Yu.
This is fake, she whispered.
It's notarized, I said.
Verified by the commercial court. Registered with the State Administration for Industry and Commerce.
You can check.
Your lawyer can check.
Anyone can check.
Director Wang spoke up.
I've already checked.
The documents are authentic.
Mr.
Qin holds 75% of the voting shares. He is, and always has been, the ultimate decision maker of this company.
The room went very quiet.
Shen Zhiyi sank into her chair like a puppet whose strings had been cut. The folder slipped from her fingers and fell to the floor.
No one picked it up.
I took my seat at the head of the table.
Now that we've established who owns what, let's begin the meeting. I have 2 items on the agenda. First, a vote of no confidence in the current CEO. Second, a proposal to remove Shen Zhiyi from all executive positions effective immediately.
On what grounds?
Shen Zhiyi shouted.
She was on her feet again, face red, eyes wild.
I built this company.
I took it from nothing to a billion-yuan valuation.
The IPO is happening tomorrow because of me.
You can't just. On what grounds?
I repeated.
I pulled out a USB drive and plugged it into the conference room's display system. The massive screen on the far wall flickered to life. Let me show you the grounds. The first slide appeared. A hotel receipt from the Peninsula Shanghai. Presidential suite. Check-in date, February 14th, 3 years ago. The name on the reservation was Shen Zhiyi. The name of the second guest was Xu Zhao. The total bill was 12,800 yuan. Paid with a company credit card. The room went dead silent. Shen Zhiyi's mouth opened, but no sound came out.
I clicked to the next slide.
A property deed for a luxury apartment in the financial district. Owner, Xu Zhao. Purchase price, 8.6 million yuan. Down payment source, a wire transfer from Zhihui Group's corporate account, authorized by Shen Zhiyi. Another slide.
A car registration.
Porsche Cayenne.
Registered to Xu Zhao.
Paid for in full.
Payment source, the same corporate account.
Slide after slide. 47 unauthorized transactions. 7 million yuan siphoned from the company over 4 years. Every withdrawal signed by Shen Zhiyi. Every payment traceable. Every crime documented. The board members sat frozen. Director Li had her hand over her mouth. Director Wang was gripping the edge of the table so hard his knuckles were white. Then I showed them the final slide. The one I had been saving. The photographs of Xu Zhao meeting Director Wei from Hengwan Capital. The audio transcript of their conversation. The evidence of industrial espionage. Your CEO, I said quietly, has been embezzling company funds for 4 years to support her personal relationship with an intern. That intern, in turn, has been selling company secrets to our largest competitor.
She knew about his data access requests.
She signed off on every single one of them.
Whether she knew about the espionage or not is irrelevant.
She created the vulnerability. She is the reason our client data is now in the hands of Hengwan Capital. Director Chen stood up slowly. His face was gray. I move that we proceed to a vote immediately. Seconded, said Director Wang.
Seconded, said Director Li.
Shen Zhiyi looked around the room, her eyes darting from face to face. She was searching for a lifeline. A sympathetic look. A hesitation.
She found nothing but cold, hard judgment.
Wait!
She said,
Wait.
please, I didn't know about the espionage.
I swear I didn't know.
Xu Zhao told me he needed the data for the IPO roadshow. He told me, you were sleeping with him, I said flatly. You were spending company money on him. You signed every document he put in front of you without reading it. You put this entire company at risk because you were thinking with your heart instead of your head. Or maybe not your heart.
Maybe something lower?
A few board members shifted uncomfortably. No one spoke in her defense.
Let's vote, I said.
Director Chen raised his hand.
No confidence.
Director Wang, no confidence.
Director Li, no confidence.
One by one, every hand in the room went up.
16 votes.
Unanimous.
Shen Zhiyi watched each hand rise like it was a nail being driven into her coffin. When the last hand went up, I turned to her. Shen Zhiyi, you are hereby removed from the position of CEO of Zhihui Group. Your employment is terminated effective immediately. All company property, including your laptop, your phone, your corporate cards, and your access credentials, must be surrendered before you leave this building. Security will escort you to your office to collect your personal belongings.
You have 30 minutes.
She didn't move. She just stared at me. Tears were running down her cheeks, cutting tracks through her smeared makeup. She looked old. She looked broken.
Why?
She whispered.
Why did you do all of this?
The hidden shares. The secret ownership. 8 years of pretending to be poor. Pretending to be weak.
Why didn't you just tell me?
I stood up and walked around the table until I was standing right in front of her. I looked down at the woman I had loved for 10 years, the woman I had built an empire for, the woman who had repaid me with lies and betrayal and a slap across the face. Because I wanted you to love me, I said.
Not my money!
Not my power.
Not my name.
Just me.
I gave you everything.
I stood in your shadow for 8 years so you could shine, and you threw it all away for a boy in a cheap blazer. So no, Shen Zhiyi.
I didn't tell you.
And now I never will, because the woman I loved never existed. She was just a mask, and the real you is standing in front of me right now.
A thief.
A liar.
A woman who slapped her husband on their wedding anniversary because he made her dinner. I stepped back.
Security.
The doors opened. 2 uniformed guards walked in.
Shen Zhiyi didn't resist.
She just stood up, slowly like an old woman. She looked at me one last time.
I did love you,
she said. Once, a long time ago. Too bad that love wasn't worth the price of a Porsche, I said. She flinched. Then she turned and walked out of the boardroom, the security guards flanking her on both sides. The doors closed behind her with a soft click. The board members sat in stunned silence. Director Chen was the first to speak.
Mr.
Qin, he said carefully, what about tomorrow? The IPO press conference. The investors. The journalists. If this gets out, it will get out, I said.
I'm going to make sure of it.
Tomorrow at the press conference, I will present all of this evidence publicly.
Every receipt,
Every photograph.
Every wire transfer.
I will announce the removal of Shen Zhiyi. I will announce the criminal charges against Xu Zhao. I will announce the lawsuit against Hengyuan Capital. The stock will plummet, Director Wang said.
Then it plummets, I said.
The company will survive.
It has survived worse. It will survive this. But Shen Zhiyi will not, and Xu Zhao will not, and anyone who ever thinks about betraying this company again will see what happens when you steal from us. I looked around the room. 16 faces.
Some were scared.
Some were impressed.
Some were already calculating what this meant for their own positions.
I didn't care.
They were all replaceable. The only thing that mattered was the plan. The plan was now in its final phase. Tomorrow, I would walk onto a stage in front of 300 people. I would stand behind a podium with the Zhihui Group logo on it, and I would burn Shen Zhiyi's legacy to the ground in front of the entire world. I left the boardroom and took the private elevator back down to the parking garage. Rain was starting to fall outside. Big drops that splattered against the windshield of the Maybach as I pulled out onto the street. My phone buzzed. Han Sen.
Boss, the arrest operation is set.
Xu Zhao is still in his apartment. We're moving in at 6 tomorrow morning.
Well, have him in cuffs before the press conference starts.
Good, I said.
and Director Wei.
We're coordinating with the Economic Crimes Division. They're raiding Hengyuan Capital's offices at the same time. Both arrests will hit the news cycle by mid-morning, right around the time you're walking on stage. I smiled. Perfect timing.
Boss! There's one more thing, Han Sen said.
Shen Zhiyi left the building about 10 minutes ago. She didn't go home. She went to a bar, alone.
She's been there since.
My guy says she's on her 4th drink.
I thought about that.
Shen Zhiyi in a dark bar drinking cheap whiskey. Her empire crumbled around her. Part of me felt a flicker of something. Pity, maybe.
Regret.
But I crushed it. Let her drink, I said.
She's going to need it for tomorrow.
I ended the call and drove home. The rain was coming down harder now, blurring the city lights into streaks of gold and red. The streets were emptying out. People were going home to their families, their dinners, their quiet lives. Tomorrow, the storm would break.
Not the rain.
The real storm. The one I had been brewing for 4 years. And Shen Zhiyi would be standing right in the middle of it, with no umbrella and no shelter and no one left to protect her.
I didn't sleep well that night.
Not because of guilt, because of anticipation. At 5 in the morning, I got out of bed and walked to the study in my robe. The city outside was still dark. Rain streaked down the windows in steady sheets. I turned on my monitors and watched the feeds. Han Sen's team was already in position outside Xu Zhao's apartment building. 6 unmarked cars. 12 officers from the Economic Crimes Division. I watched through a body camera feed as they entered the lobby, flashed their badges at the front desk, and rode the elevator to the 23rd floor. At 5:42, they kicked in the door. Xu Zhao was still in his underwear. He screamed something that the microphone didn't quite catch. There was a brief scuffle. Then he was on the floor, hands cuffed behind his back. An officer reading him his rights. He looked small and pathetic on the camera feed, not the smug boy who had called me uncle and eaten my braised pork with his fingers. Just a scared kid in handcuffs. Package secured, Han Sen said over the radio. I switched off the feed. 1 down.
1 to go.
At 7 o'clock, I started getting ready.
I didn't rush. I shaved carefully.
I put on a dark charcoal suit, the most expensive one I owned.
Brioni.
Hand-stitched in Italy. Shen Zhiyi had never seen me wear it. She had never seen me wear any of my good clothes. I chose my tie carefully. Black, silk, simple, the same color I would have worn to a funeral. At 8 o'clock, a courier arrived at the penthouse. He handed me a large white box tied with a black ribbon.
I didn't open it.
I already knew what was inside. I carried the box down to the car and placed it on the passenger seat. Then I drove across town, through the rain, to a small hotel in the old city. The one where Han Sen's guy had tracked Shen Zhiyi last night. She was staying in room 407. I didn't knock. I had the front desk give me a key card. I swiped it and pushed the door open. The room was a mess. Clothes on the floor. Empty bottles on the nightstand. The curtains were drawn, blocking out the gray morning light. Shen Zhiyi was sitting on the edge of the unmade bed, still wearing her wrinkled white suit from yesterday. Her eyes were red. Her hair was a tangled mess. She looked like a woman who had hit rock bottom and kept falling. She looked up when I walked in. For a moment, she didn't seem to recognize me. Then her eyes focused and her face twisted into something ugly.
Come to gloat,
she said. Her voice was hoarse. From the crying or the whiskey, I couldn't tell. No, I said. I came to give you a gift. I placed the white box on the bed beside her. She stared at it like it might explode. What is this? Open it.
She hesitated.
Then she pulled off the black ribbon and lifted the lid. Inside was a pair of shoes. High heels. Christian, Louboutin. The soles were painted in the signature blood red lacquer.
But these weren't ordinary Louboutins.
I had them custom made last week. The red soles weren't just lacquer. Embedded in the transparent resin were tiny photographs. Dozens of them. Each one a different image of her and Xu Zhao together. Hotel lobbies.
Restaurants.
The Porsche dealership.
The Balinese beach. Every moment of her betrayal preserved forever on the bottom of a pair of shoes she would never be able to wear without walking on her own sins. Shen Zhiyi picked up one of the shoes. Her hand was shaking. She held it close to her face and squinted at the tiny images. Then she saw them.
Really saw them.
She dropped the shoe like it had burned her.
You're a monster, she whispered.
No, I said.
I'm the man you should have been faithful to. I'm the husband you slapped on our 8th wedding anniversary. I'm the person who loved you enough to let you take credit for everything I built. And you repaid me with 4 years of lies and a boy who was selling your secrets to the highest bidder. Her face crumpled. I didn't know about the secrets.
I swear I didn't know. You didn't want to know, I said.
That's the difference.
You could have checked.
You could have asked questions.
But you were too busy enjoying the attention of a 24-year-old who told you were beautiful.
You were too busy spending my money on his apartment and his car and his vacations. You let him into our company. You gave him the keys to the kingdom, and he sold them. I pulled out my phone and showed her a photo. Xu Zhao in handcuffs, being led out of his apartment building by police officers. The timestamp was from less than 3 hours ago. Shen Zhiyi stared at the image. The color drained from her face.
Has been arrested, I said.
Industrial espionage.
Embezzlement.
Identity fraud. Hes looking at 10 to 15 years.
And you, Shen Zhiyi, are going to be known as the CEO who let it happen.
The CEO who was so blinded by her own vanity that she didn't notice her lover was robbing the company blind.
When did you become like this?
She asked.
Her voice was barely a whisper now. You used to be so gentle.
So kind.
You used to cook me dinner and tell me you loved me.
Where is that man?
He died, I said, on our 8th wedding anniversary, when you walked into our house with another man and slapped him across the face. You killed him. What's left. I turned and walked toward the door.
Then I paused.
The press conference starts at 10, I said without looking back. You're still technically invited. You're still the CEO on paper, for a few more hours. I suggest you show up. If you don't, the entire world will only hear my version of the story. At least if you're there, you can try to defend yourself.
Not that it will do any good.
I opened the door. Qin Yu, her voice stopped me.
Why the shoes?
Why go to all this trouble?
You could have just destroyed me. Why the cruelty? I turned and looked at her one last time. She was holding the shoe again, staring at the tiny photographs on the red sole.
Because you need to understand something, I said.
Every step you take from now on, you'll be walking on what you did.
Every job you apply for.
Every person you meet. Every city you run to. You'll be standing on your own betrayal. That's not cruelty.
That's justice.
I left the hotel and drove to the press conference venue. The rain had stopped. Sunlight was breaking through the clouds.
It was going to be a beautiful day.
The venue was the grand ballroom of the Peninsula Hotel. The The same hotel where she had taken Shuzhou 3 years ago. I had chosen it deliberately. Every detail of this day was deliberate. When I arrived, the preparations were already in full swing. Technicians were testing the massive LED screen behind the stage. Journalists were setting up cameras in the back. Caterers were arranging champagne glasses on white tablecloths. The Zhihui Group logo was everywhere.
On the banners.
On the podium. On the little gift bags at every seat. It was supposed to be a celebration. The culmination of 8 years of work.
A billion-yuan IPO.
A triumph. Instead, it was going to be an execution. I found Han Sen near the AV booth. He handed me a small remote control. It was simple.
One button.
Black.
Small enough to fit in my palm. The evidence package is loaded onto the main screen system, he said. Press the button and it starts playing. Every screen in the room.
The live stream.
The backup monitors. Everything. There is no stopping it once it starts.
Good.
I slip the remote into my jacket pocket. Is the board here? All 16 members. There in the VIP lounge. They look nervous.
They should be.
By the end of today, Zhihui Group stock is going to drop 20%.
Maybe more, but it will recover.
Scandals always fade.
The company will survive. Shen Zhiyi will not. Han Sen nodded.
And the other thing?
The document you asked me to prepare? He handed me a large envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper. A letter of resignation. Dated today. Signed by Shen Zhiyi.
It's a forgery, Han Sen said.
But a good one. Her signature is easy to copy. She was always signing things without reading them. I'm not going to use it, I said.
That's not how this ends.
She's going to resign in front of everyone. She's going to stand on that stage and admit what she did. Or she's going to stand there while I show the world. Either way, she loses. I tucked the remote deeper into my pocket and walked toward the stage.
The ballroom was filling up.
300 chairs, all of them occupied. I saw journalists from every major financial outlet. Investors in tailored suits. Government officials with stern faces. The mayor's representative.
The stock exchange chairman.
Everyone who mattered in the business world was here. At 9:45, the lights dimmed. The crowd hushed. The stage lights came up bright and harsh. And Shen Zhiyi walked. She was wearing a new dress. Navy blue.
Elegant.
Her hair was pulled back in its usual tight style. Her makeup was flawless.
She had pulled herself together in the past 2 hours.
She looked like a CEO again. Like the woman I had fallen in love with.
Like the queen.
She had always believed herself to be, but her eyes gave her away. They were darting around the room, searching for threats. She knew what was coming. She just didn't know when. I stood in the wings, watching. My hand was in my pocket, fingers wrapped around the remote. The clock on the wall ticked toward 10. It was time. The clock struck 10. The last chime faded into the expectant hush of 300 people holding their breath. Shen Zhiyi walked to the podium like she still owned the world. Her navy dress caught the stage lights. Her hair was perfect. Her smile was the smile of a woman who had spent the last hour rebuilding herself in a hotel bathroom with cold water and sheer willpower.
She looked invincible.
She looked like a CEO.
She didn't look at me.
She didn't know where I was standing. But I was there, in the wings. My hand wrapped around the small black remote in my pocket. The one button felt like a trigger. She tapped the microphone. The sound echoed through the ballroom.
Good morning, everyone, Shen Zhiyi said.
Her voice was steady, impressive. Thank you for being here on this historic day for Zhihui Group. 8 years ago, this company was just an idea scribbled on a napkin in a coffee shop. Today, we stand on the threshold of a new era.
The IPO is fully subscribed.
The valuation has exceeded all projections. And it is my deepest honor to stand before you as the CEO who I stepped onto the stage. The movement caught everyone's eye. A ripple of confusion went through the crowd.
Journalists looked up from their notebooks.
Investors stopped adjusting their cufflinks. The cameras swiveled slightly, sensing something more interesting than another corporate speech.
Shen Zhiyi stopped mid-sentence.
She turned her head and saw me walking toward her. The color drained from her face so fast it looked like someone had pulled a plug. "What are you doing?" she hissed, covering the microphone with her hand.
I didn't answer.
I walked past her and stopped at the center of the stage. I turned to face the audience. 300 faces stared back at me.
Some curious.
Some alarmed. Some already pulling out their phones to record whatever was about to happen.
Ladies and gentlemen, I said, my voice calm and clear through the sound system.
My name is Qin Yu. I am the founder and controlling shareholder of Zhihui Group. Before we proceed with this celebration, there's something I think you should see. Shen Zhiyi grabbed my arm. Her nails dug into my sleeve. "Don't," she whispered. "Please."
I'll do anything.
Just don't.
I looked at her. Her eyes were wide, wet, desperate. This was the woman who had slapped me on our anniversary. This was the woman who had thrown a black card at my chest and told me to get out of her house. This was the woman who had spent 4 years and 7 million yuan of my money on another man.
You should have thought about that before you slapped me, I said quietly.
Then I pressed the button. For half a second, nothing happened. The giant LED screen behind us still displayed the Zhiyi Group logo and the words IPO celebration in gold letters. Then the screen flickered. The logo vanished, and the first image appeared. It was a photograph. Shen Zhiyi and Xu Zhao. The Peninsula Hotel lobby. She was wearing a red dress. He had his arm around her waist. They were checking in together. The timestamp in the corner read February 14th, 3 years ago. Valentine's Day. A collective gasp swept through the ballroom. It sounded like air escaping from a punctured tire. Then the next image.
A scanned hotel receipt.
Presidential suite. Guest names Shen Zhiyi and Xu Zhao. Payment method. Zhiyi Group corporate credit card. Total 12,800 yuan. Then the next. A property deed for a luxury apartment. Owner. Xu Zhao. Down payment source. Wire transfer from Zhiyi Group. Then the next.
A Porsche registration.
Xu Zhao. Paid in full.
Company funds.
Image after image, slide after slide, 47 transactions, 7 million yuan, 4 years of betrayal compressed into a single devastating montage. The audience was no longer silent. People were gasping, journalists were shouting into their phones, cameras were flashing so fast the stage looked like it was under a strobe light. Someone in the front row stood up, mouth hanging open. It was the stock exchange chairman. His face was a mask of pure shock. Shen Zhiyi stood frozen beside me. Her hand was still on my arm, but her grip had gone slack. She stared at the screen like a woman watching her own execution. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out.
Then the screen changed again.
The photograph stopped. Now it showed grainy surveillance footage. A tea house, a table by the window, Xu Zhao sitting across from a man in an expensive suit. The timestamp was from last week. Text appeared beneath the image. Xu Zhao meets with Director Wei of Hengyuan Capital, a direct competitor of Zhiyi Group. A muffled audio clip played through the ballroom speakers. Director Wei's voice, tinny but clear. Deliver the client list before the IPO, and the VP position is yours.
5 million signing bonus.
Just make sure it's complete. Xu Zhao's voice smug and confident. The CEO will sign anything I put in front of her. The audience erupted. People were on their feet now. Someone yelled a question.
Someone else shouted an obscenity.
I saw Director Chen in the front row, his face gray and grim, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. He knew this was coming. He had voted yesterday, but seeing it in public on a 30-meter screen was something else entirely. I raised my hand. Slowly the noise died down. 300 pairs of eyes fixed on me. Every camera in the room was pointed at the stage. This morning, I said, Xu Zhao was arrested by the Economic Crimes Division. He is currently in custody facing charges of industrial espionage, embezzlement, and identity fraud. Director Wei of Hengyuan Capital was also arrested. Criminal investigations are ongoing. All stolen data has been recovered. I paused. The silence was so absolute I could hear the hum of the air conditioning. For 4 years, Shen Zhiyi, the CEO of this company, conducted an affair with Xu Zhao. She used company funds to buy him an apartment, a car, vacations, and luxury goods. She signed off on his access to our confidential client database without any oversight. Whether she knew about his espionage activities is a matter for the courts. What is not in question is that her negligence and her personal misconduct created the conditions that allowed this breach to happen. I turned to face Shen Zhiyi directly. The cameras followed me. Her face was now projected on the massive screen behind us. 300 people could see every twitch, every tear, every crack in her foundation.
Do you have anything to say?
I asked.
She stared at me. Her lips trembled. Then she lunged for the microphone. I let her grab it.
This is a lie,
she screamed. Her voice was shrill, cracking. Nothing like the polished CEO who had started the speech 5 minutes ago. Hez, my ex-husband.
Hez bitter and jealous.
He fabricated all of this.
The photos are fake. The audio is fake. Hess trying to destroy me. The photos are notarized, I said calmly. The financial records are audited by a third-party firm. The audio has been verified by forensic experts. And Xu Zhao is already in police custody.
Hez talking, Shen Zhiyi.
Hez telling them everything. She spun around to face the audience, her eyes wild. Don't believe him. I built this company.
I am the CEO.
You are nothing, I interrupted.
My voice was quiet, but the microphone carried it to every corner of the room. You are a woman who spent her husband's money on a boy half her age. You are a woman who slapped her husband on their wedding anniversary because he made her dinner.
You are a thief, a liar, and an adulterer.
And you're no longer the CEO of Zhihui Group.
She staggered back as if I had physically struck her. The microphone slipped from her hand and clattered to the stage floor. The sound boomed through the speakers like a gunshot.
I picked up the microphone.
I faced the audience. The screen behind me now showed a single line of text in bold black letters. Founders Clause, Article 7. Qin Yu holds 75% voting shares. I founded this company 8 years ago, I said. I funded it. I built the back-end infrastructure. I negotiated the key contracts through intermediaries. I let Shen Zhiyi be the public face because I believed in her talent and her ambition. I believed in her as my wife. For 8 years I stood in the shadows while she stood in the spotlight. And she repaid me by sleeping with an intern and letting him steal from us. I looked across the audience.
Journalists were scribbling furiously.
Investors were typing on their phones, probably ordering their brokers to dump Zhihui Group stock the moment the market opened. The board members sat in the front row like statues, their faces unreadable. The IPO is postponed, I said. Effective immediately. The company will undergo a full internal audit.
All executives appointed by Shen Zhiyi will be reviewed.
And as for Shen Zhiyi herself, I turned to look at her. She was standing at the edge of the stage, her back to the audience, her shoulders shaking. She was crying. After everything, she was finally crying in front of the whole world. I'm calling for an immediate vote, I said.
Right here.
Right now.
The board of directors is present. The shareholders are watching. The world is watching. Let the board decide whether Shen Zhiyi is fit to remain as CEO of Zhihui Group. I looked down at the front row. 16 faces stared back at me.
Director Chen.
Director Wang, Director Li. All of them. They had already voted once in a closed boardroom. But that was private.
This was public.
This was for the history books. Director Chen, I said. You are the senior board member. Will you call the vote? Director Chen stood up slowly. He was an old man, 72 years old, with a back curved by decades of sitting at boardroom tables. But his voice was strong and clear.
I will,
he said. Board members, please rise. One by one, the 16 directors stood up.
They faced the stage. They faced the cameras.
They faced the woman who had been their CEO for 8 years. Shen Zhiyi turned around. Her face was a wreck. Mascara streaked down her cheeks. Her perfect hair was coming loose. She looked at the board members like a drowning woman looking at a lifeboat that was already sailing away. Please, she whispered, but no microphone caught it. Only I heard her. I felt nothing.
Let the vote begin, Director Chen announced.
All in favor of removing Shen Zhiyi as CEO of Zhihui Group. Raise your hand. The cameras zoomed in. The ballroom held its breath. I stood at center stage, the remote still warm in my pocket, and watched the final act begin. The screen behind me was dark now. All the evidence had been shown. All the secrets had been revealed. Now it was just judgment. And judgment was about to fall. Director Chen raised his hand first. His arm went up slowly, deliberately, like a judge delivering a verdict. His eyes never left Shen Zhiyi's face. He had known her for 8 years. He had mentored her, advised her, defended her in board meetings when other members questioned her spending. And now he was raising his hand to end her career.
I vote to remove, he said.
His voice carried through the silent ballroom like a stone dropped into still water. Shen Zhiyi made a sound. A small, choked noise that the microphones didn't quite catch. Her hand went to her throat. Director Wang raised his hand next.
I vote to remove.
Director Li, I vote to remove. Director Zhang, Director Huang, Director Liu.
One after another, the hands went up.
16 directors.
16 raised hands.
There was no hesitation.
No wavering.
No sympathetic glances toward the woman on stage. Just 16 arms extended in unanimous condemnation. The cameras captured every single one. The journalists would later describe it as a forest of raised hands, a wall of rejection. I just saw it as math. 16-0.
That was the final score.
Director Chen turned to face the audience. The vote is unanimous. 16 in favor of removal.
0 opposed.
0 abstentions. Shen Zhiyi is hereby removed from the position of Chief Executive Officer of Zhihui Group, effective immediately.
All executive powers, signing authorities, and access privileges are revoked.
She is to have no further involvement in the company's operations, finances, or strategic decisions. He paused. Then he added, the board further recommends a full forensic audit of all financial transactions authorized by Ms. Shen during her tenure. Any evidence of criminal activity will be referred to the appropriate authorities. Shen Zhiyi's legs gave out. She didn't fall dramatically.
She just sort of crumpled, like a building collapsing in slow motion.
Her knees hit the stage floor,
Her hands braced against the polished wood. The navy dress pooled around her like a dark puddle. Her hair fell forward, hiding her face. The cameras kept rolling. The flashbulbs kept popping.
No one moved to help her up.
I stood a few feet away, looking down at the woman I had once loved. The woman I had married in a tiny civil affairs office. The woman I had built an empire for. She was on her knees on a stage, in front of 300 people, her career shattered, her reputation destroyed, her future in ruins. And I felt nothing. Or maybe I felt everything, and that was why it felt like nothing. I couldn't tell anymore.
Get up, I said quietly.
Not into the microphone.
Just to her. She didn't move. I turned to the security guards standing at the edge of the stage. Please escort Ms. Shen out of the building. She is no longer an employee of this company and has no authorization to be on this stage. 2 guards walked onto the stage.
They were big men in dark suits.
They bent down and took Shen Zhiyi by the arms. She didn't resist. She just let them lift her to her feet.
Her heels scraped against the stage floor.
The shoes I had given her that morning. The shoes with the photographs on the soles. She was wearing them. She had actually worn them. I hadn't noticed until now.
Maybe she had worn them as some kind of defiance.
Or maybe she just had no other shoes to wear. It didn't matter.
She was walking on her own sins, just like I had promised. The guards started to lead her toward the side exit. The journalists swarmed toward the stage like sharks smelling blood. Questions were shouted from every direction.
Ms. Shen.
Did you know about the espionage?
Ms.
Shen.
How long was the affair? Ms. Shen.
Are you going to sue Miss
Qin.
Ms.
Shen.
What will you do now?
She didn't answer any of them. She just kept walking, her head down, her shoulders hunched, looking like a prisoner being led to her cell, which, in a way, she was. Just before she reached the exit, she stopped. The guards paused. She turned her head and looked back at me. Her face was a wreck, but her eyes were clear. They were the same eyes I had fallen in love with 10 years ago. Sharp.
Intelligent.
Burning with something that might have been hatred or might have been regret.
You won, she said.
Her voice was raspy. Are you happy now? I walked toward her.
The guard stepped back slightly.
I stopped a foot away from her, close enough that the cameras couldn't capture what I was about to say.
Happy.
I said,
No.
I'm not happy. I wanted to spend my life with you. I wanted to grow old with you. I wanted to build something that would outlast both of us.
You destroyed that.
Not me.
You.
Her eyes glistened. I made a mistake.
You made 4 years of mistakes, I said.
4 years.
400 hotel nights, 7 million yuan.
One corporate spy.
That's not a mistake. That's a choice. You made it every single day for 4 years. She didn't have an answer for that. There was no answer. Some betrayals were too big for words. I stepped back. Take her out, I said to the guards. They led her through the exit. The door closed behind her with a soft click. And just like that, Shen Zhiyi was gone. She had walked onto this stage as the CEO of a billion-yuan company. She walked off as nothing.
No job.
No reputation.
No future.
I turned back to the audience. The room was still in chaos. Journalists were shouting over each other. Investors were huddled in corners, making frantic phone calls. The stock exchange chairman was already walking toward the exit, his face pale. I raised my hand again. The room slowly quieted.
Ladies and gentlemen, I said.
I know this is not the event you came here for. You came to celebrate an IPO. Instead, you witnessed the end of a career and the beginning of a criminal investigation.
I apologize for the disruption.
But I do not apologize for the truth. I paused and looked around the room. Every face was turned toward me. Some were hostile, some were impressed, some were already calculating how to profit from the coming stock crash.
It didn't matter.
I wasn't here to make friends. Zhiyi Group will survive this, I continued. The company is fundamentally sound. The products are strong. The team, once I finish cleaning house, will be stronger. The IPO will proceed, but on a revised timeline and under new leadership. I will be assuming the role of interim CEO until a permanent replacement is appointed. My first act as CEO will be to cooperate fully with the police investigation into Suzhou and Hengyuan capital. My second act will be to recover every single yuan that was stolen from this company, including the apartment, the car, and all other assets purchased with embezzled funds. A journalist in the third row stood up without being called on. Mr.
Qin.
Is it true that Shen Zhiyi was your wife?
And that she didn't know you owned the company?
I looked at her.
She was young, maybe 25, with eager eyes and a notepad clutched tightly in her hand. She smelled a story bigger than the IPO. A love story turned war story.
Yes, I said.
She was my wife.
We were married for 8 years.
She did not know I owned the company because I chose not to tell her.
I wanted her to feel like she had earned her success.
I wanted her to love me for who I was, not for what I could give her. That was my mistake. I trusted her.
She broke that trust. End of story.
Another journalist jumped up.
Mr.
Qin! What about the divorce settlement?
Will she get anything?
I smiled. It was not a warm smile. She asked me to sign a divorce agreement 2 nights ago. She wanted full ownership of our house, 60% of Zhihui Group shares, and a 20 million yuan cash payment for, and I quote, emotional damages. I signed it.
The room gasped.
The young journalist's mouth fell open. But here's the thing, I continued.
That agreement is worthless.
Because the house is in my name, the shares are in my name. The company is in my name. Every asset she thought she was entitled to was never actually hers. She will receive nothing. Not a single yuan. Not a single share. Not even the dress she was wearing when she walked off this stage. Because I bought that dress too. I turned and walked toward the edge of the stage. The journalists were shouting more questions, but I was done answering. I had said everything I needed to say. I had shown everything I needed to show. The rest would play out in courtrooms and news cycles and the court of public opinion. Han Sen met me in the wings. His face was grim but satisfied.
Xu Zhao is singing like a bird, he said quietly.
Hez already implicated Director Wei. Hez also saying Shen Zhiyi knew more than she let on. Specifically, he claims she knew he was meeting with competitors and she told him to be careful.
Do we have proof of that? Not yet.
But his testimony alone will be enough to bring charges. Accessory to industrial espionage. That's another 5 to 10 years if convicted. I nodded. Make sure the prosecutors have everything. I want both of them to face the maximum penalty.
And Shen Zhiyi.
I looked back at the stage. The cleaning crew was already coming in to clear the chairs. The massive LED screen was dark. The Zhihui Group logo had been taken down. The party was over. She is already facing the maximum penalty, I said.
She just doesn't know it yet. She lost her company.
She lost her reputation.
She lost her lover.
By the end of this week, she'll lose her freedom too.
That's not revenge. That's just consequences. I walked out of the ballroom and into the bright morning sunlight. The rain had stopped. The sky was blue. The city was gleaming. Somewhere out there, Shen Zhiyi was learning what it felt like to have nothing. And somewhere in a jail cell, Xu Zhao was learning that his pretty face wouldn't protect him from prison bars. As for me, I got into my Maybach and drove toward the Azure Tower.
My tower.
My company.
My life.
For the first time in 8 years, everything was exactly as it should be. 3 days after the press conference, Shen Zhiyi finally lawyered up. I was in my office on the top floor of Zhihui Group when Lu Feng called. The office had been hers until last week. I had changed the furniture, the paint, even the plants. There was no trace of her left, except for one thing. The view. She had always loved the view. Now it was mine. Mr. Qin. Lu Feng said, Madam Shen's legal team just filed a motion in family court. They're claiming joint ownership of all marital assets, including Zhihui Group shares under the matrimonial property law. They're demanding a 50% division. I leaned back in my chair and looked out at the city skyline. The sun was setting, painting the glass towers orange and gold. It was almost beautiful.
Almost peaceful. Let them file, I said.
What else?
They've also frozen a few minor accounts, the joint savings account, the household expense account, about 300,000 yuan total.
Small stuff.
And her lawyer?
Who is she using? A firm called Hengtai Legal. Senior partner named Fang Wei.
Has good?
Not the best, but good. He has a reputation for aggressive divorce litigation. I swiveled my chair around and opened my laptop. Send me everything. The motion, the asset list, the legal arguments. I want to read it before the hearing.
Already sent, sir.
I hung up and opened the documents. The motion was 47 pages long. Fang Wei had done his homework. He had listed every asset Shen Zhiyi believed she was entitled to.
The villa?
The cars. The joint accounts.
The Zhihui Group shares. Her argument was simple and, on the surface, legally sound. Under Chinese marital property law, assets acquired during the marriage were generally considered joint property, regardless of whose name was on the paperwork. She had no idea what she was walking into. I scrolled through the asset list and almost laughed. She had included her handbags, 12 Hermes Birkin bags, estimated value 1.2 million yuan. She had included her jewelry, a Cartier necklace, a Van Cleef bracelet, diamond earrings from Tiffany. All gifts from me over the years. All purchased with my money. She was trying to claim them as her personal property, while simultaneously claiming half of everything else. The hearing was scheduled for the next morning. I decided to attend in person. The family court was a nondescript building in the old administrative district. Gray concrete, Fluorescent lights. Benches worn smooth by decades of unhappy people sitting on them. I arrived at 9 o'clock with Lu Feng and a team of 3 lawyers. We walked into the courtroom like we owned it. Which, in a way, we did. Shen Zhiyi was already there. She sat at the petitioner's table with Fang Wei beside her. She was wearing a plain gray dress.
No jewelry.
No designer bag.
She was trying to look poor and sympathetic. But I noticed her shoes. They were Louboutins. Not the pair I had given her with the photographs on the soles.
A different pair.
She still had some pride left. She looked at me when I walked in. Her eyes were hard, but there was something else there too.
Fear.
She knew this was her last shot. If she couldn't get money from the divorce, she had nothing.
No job. No income.
No assets. Her name was toxic in the business world.
No company would hire her.
No investor would back her.
This courtroom was her only lifeline.
The judge entered.
Everyone stood.
The bailiff announced the case.
Shen Zhiyi versus Qin Yu.
Divorce settlement dispute. Fang Wei spoke first. He was a tall man with a sharp suit and a sharper voice.
He laid out Shen Zhiyi's case methodically.
8 years of marriage.
A company built during those 8 years.
A villa purchased during those 8 years.
Cars, jewelry, handbags, all acquired during the marriage. Under Article 17 of the matrimonial property law, all of it was joint property. His client was entitled to 50%.
That was the law.
Simple.
The judge nodded and looked at our table. Does the respondent wish to present a counter-argument?
My lead lawyer stood up.
Her name was Jiang Nan. She was 53 years old, had never lost a case, and charged more per hour than most people made in a month. I had hired her the day after the press conference.
Your Honor, Jiang Nan said calmly, the petitioner's argument relies on a fundamental misunderstanding of the facts.
She claims that the assets in question were acquired during the marriage.
That is true. Chronologically.
However, she cannot demonstrate that she contributed to the acquisition of those assets in any meaningful way.
Fang Wei jumped up.
Objection.
Ms. Shen was the CEO of Zhihui Group. She worked there for 8 years. Her contributions are well documented.
Jiang Nan smiled.
She was appointed CEO by the board.
She drew a salary. Her salary was her contribution, and that salary has already been accounted for. My client is not seeking to recover her salary. He is simply establishing that her salary does not entitle her to ownership of the company itself. She walked toward the judge's bench and placed a thick folder in front of him. Exhibit A, the incorporation documents of Zhihui Group. You will note that the company was founded by my client, Qin Yu, using premarital assets, specifically 30 million yuan from a personal trust established 15 years ago, long before the marriage. The judge opened the folder and started reading. His eyebrows went up. Jiang Nan continued. Exhibit B.
The property deed for the villa.
Purchased in my client's name using funds from the same premarital trust. The purchase occurred during the marriage, but the funds were not marital funds.
They were separate property.
Exhibit C. Records of all vehicle purchases. Every car registered under my client's name. Every payment traced back to accounts that predate the marriage. Exhibit D. Receipts for every luxury item the petitioner has claimed as her own. Handbags, jewelry, shoes. All purchased using my client's credit cards. All traceable to my client's separate accounts. We have the receipts. We have the bank statements.
We have the credit card records.
She turned and looked directly at Shen Zhiyi. Her voice was calm and devastating. The petitioner came into this marriage with nothing. She is leaving this marriage with nothing because she brought nothing. She contributed her labor to the company and was compensated with a generous salary. She contributed nothing to the acquisition of the assets she now claims. The law does not entitle her to a windfall simply because she was married to a wealthy man. Fang Wei was on his feet again.
This is outrageous.
The house was the marital home.
The cars were used by both parties.
The company grew under her leadership.
You cannot separate the financial contributions so cleanly.
Jiang Nan didn't even look at him. She addressed the judge. Your Honor, we are not required to separate the contributions. The petitioner is required to prove she made contributions.
She cannot.
She has presented no evidence of any personal funds used to purchase any of the disputed assets.
Not a single bank transfer. Not a single receipt.
Not a single document showing her name as the purchaser. Because such evidence does not exist. The judge looked at Shen Zhiyi.
Ms.
Shen, does your legal team have any evidence of your direct financial contributions to the disputed assets?
Shen Zhiyi's mouth opened and closed. She looked at Fang Wei. He looked at his notes. The silence stretched. Your Honor, Fang Wei said finally, his voice much less confident now. We request a continuance to gather additional documentation.
Request denied, the judge said.
This is a straightforward matter.
The petitioner has failed to demonstrate any legal basis for her claims. The respondent has provided comprehensive documentation establishing that the disputed assets were acquired using separate property. The court rules in favor of the respondent. He banged his gavel. All assets identified in the respondent's exhibits, including the villa, all vehicles, all shares of Zhiyi Group, and all luxury personal items purchased by the respondent are confirmed as the separate property of Qin Yu. The petitioner, Shen Zhiyi, is entitled to nothing beyond her personal clothing, and any items she can prove were purchased with her own salary. Case dismissed. The sound of the gavel echoed through the courtroom like a final nail being driven into a coffin. Shen Zhiyi sat frozen in her chair. Her gray dress suddenly looked less like a strategic choice, and more like a prophecy. She had dressed for poverty. Now she would live it. Feng Wei leaned over and whispered something in her ear. Probably telling her about the appeal process. Probably telling her this wasn't over. He was lying. It was over. I stood up and buttoned my jacket. Jiang Nan gathered her files.
Lu Feng held the door.
As I walked past Shen Zhiyi's table, she grabbed my sleeve.
Wait, she said.
Her voice was cracked. Please, just wait. I stopped but didn't turn around.
What about my clothes?
She said. My personal things. They're still in the villa.
Can I at least get my clothes? I turned my head slightly. You can send someone to pick them up. I'll have security let them in.
And my bags?
My jewelry? Those were purchased by me.
They belong to me now. You can keep the gray dress?
You bought that with your own salary, didn't you? Her face crumpled. She had bought the gray dress at a discount store 2 days ago, specifically to wear to court. It was the only thing she owned that I hadn't paid for, and it looked cheap.
You're really going to take everything? She whispered.
No, I said. I'm not taking anything. I'm keeping what was always mine.
You never had anything. You just didn't know it.
Now you do? I walked out of the courtroom. Behind me, I heard a sound that might have been a sob. I didn't look back. The next morning, a courier delivered a package to my office. It was a small box wrapped in brown paper. Inside were the Louboutins, the pair with the photographs on the soles. Shen Zhiyi had returned them. There was no note, just the shoes. I stared at them for a long moment. The tiny photographs were still there, preserved in the red resin. Hotel lobbies, beaches, car dealerships. A record of every betrayal. She had walked on them during the press conference. She had worn them on stage while her life collapsed. And now she had sent them back. I put the shoes in the bottom drawer of my desk and closed it.
I didn't need them anymore.
The evidence was filed.
The court case was won.
The story was over, but it wasn't quite over. There was one more thing.
One final piece of business.
That evening, I received a call from the prosecutor's office. Xu Zhao had taken a plea deal. In exchange for a reduced sentence, he had agreed to testify against Shen Zhiyi in a criminal case. He claimed she had authorized the data transfers. He claimed she knew about the meetings with Hengyuan Capital. He claimed she was not just a negligent CEO but an active co-conspirator. The prosecutor wanted to know if I would support the case.
I told him I would.
The next morning, Shen Zhiyi was arrested at her hotel room. The charges were embezzlement, corporate espionage, and accessory to industrial theft. Her mugshot was on every news website by noon. The woman who had once been the queen of Zhiyi Group was now a criminal defendant facing up to 15 years in prison. She called me from the detention center. I didn't answer.
She called again.
And again. Finally, I picked up.
You said the shoes were justice, she said.
Her voice was hollow.
Empty. You said that was it? That was the punishment.
You didn't say anything about prison.
The shoes were justice for the affair, I said. The prison is justice for the crimes.
You should have read what you were signing.
You never did.
I hung up. That was the last time I ever heard her voice. The day Shen Zhiyi was released on bail was the day the rain came back. It wasn't a gentle rain. It was a hard, pounding downpour that flooded streets and sent pedestrians running for cover. I watched it from my office window. The city below was a blur of gray water and red taillights. It looked like the whole world was crying. Han Sen called me at 3 in the afternoon. Boss, she's out. Posted bail about an hour ago. 300,000 yuan.
She had to borrow it.
From who?
No idea. Probably one of her old friends. Not that she has many left. Most of them dropped her after the news broke. I watched the rain streak down the glass.
Where is she now?
That's the interesting part.
She's here.
Outside the building.
Standing by the main entrance.
She won't leave.
Security tried to move her, but she just stands there. She's not saying anything, just standing in the rain. I closed my eyes. Part of me wanted to tell security to drag her away,
To call the police.
to have her arrested for trespassing. But another part of me A smaller part buried deep under 8 years of betrayal and 4 days of vengeance wanted to see her. I took the elevator down. The lobby was empty. The receptionist had gone home early because of the storm. The security guards were huddled near the front desk, watching the main entrance with uncertain expressions. They straightened up when they saw me.
Mr.
Qin, one of them said, "There's a woman outside. She's been there for almost an hour. She won't come, she won't leave."
I know, I said.
"I'll handle it." I pushed open the glass doors and stepped outside. The rain hit me immediately.
Cold.
Heavy.
Relentless.
My suit was soaked within seconds. I didn't care. Shen Zhiyi was standing on the sidewalk, about 10 meters from the entrance. She was wearing the gray dress from the courtroom. It was plastered to her body, dark with water. Her hair was a wet tangle. Her makeup was gone, washed away by the rain. She looked like a ghost, the ghost of the woman I had married. She didn't move when she saw me. She just stood there, shivering, her arms wrapped around herself.
What are you doing here?
I asked. My voice was barely audible over the rain.
I have nowhere else to go, she said.
Her teeth were chattering. The hotel kicked me out.
My accounts are frozen.
My friends won't answer my calls. I have nothing.
Literally nothing. That was the point. She flinched. I know.
I know it was. And I know I deserve it. I know I deserve all of it.
But I just wanted to ask you one thing.
One thing, and then it'll go. It'll disappear.
You'll never see me again.
I waited.
The rain poured down between us.
Was any of it real?
She asked. The 8 years, the dinners, the late nights when you rubbed my shoulders after a long day. The way you looked at me when I walked into a room. Was any of it real? Or was I just a project? A person you were building like the company? I stared at her. Water dripped from my hair into my eyes. I blinked it away. Every single moment was real, I said.
I loved you more than I have ever loved anything.
I loved you so much that I erased myself so you could shine. I was invisible for 8 years because I thought my invisibility would make you happy. And you were happy, weren't you? When you were on stage?
When you were winning awards.
When the world told you you were brilliant.
You were happy. And I was happy watching you be happy. Then why didn't you tell me? Because I was afraid, I said. I was afraid that if you knew the truth, you would look at me differently. You would see the money instead of the man, the power instead of the person. I wanted you to love Qin Yu. Just Qin Yu, the boy who sat in the back row, the husband who made you dinner, the man who would have given you everything.
I wanted you to love that man.
She took a step toward me.
Her feet were bare.
She had lost her shoes somewhere.
I did love that man, she said.
I did. But I was also stupid and greedy and so hungry for validation that I let a boy half my age tell me I was special. I let him tell me what I wanted to hear, and I forgot what I already had.
You didn't forget, I said.
You just didn't value it.
There is a difference.
She stopped walking. The rain kept falling. She was shaking so hard now that she could barely stand.
I'm sorry, she said.
I know that doesn't fix anything.
I know sorry is just a word, but it's all I have left. I'm sorry, Qin Yu. I'm sorry for the affair. I'm sorry for the slap. I'm sorry for 8 years of taking you for granted. I'm sorry I didn't see what you were doing for me. I'm sorry I was too blind to see the man I married. I looked at her for a long moment. The rain was starting to let up. The gray sky was breaking apart, revealing patches of pale blue.
I believe you, I said. I believe you're sorry.
But it doesn't change anything.
You still have to face the charges.
You still have to rebuild your life. And you have to do it without me, without my money, without my protection. You have to do it alone. Her legs gave out. She dropped to her knees on the wet pavement. The water pooled around her. She didn't seem to notice. She just knelt there, in the rain, in the gray dress, with nothing and no one. Xu Zhao wasn't there. He was in a jail cell awaiting trial. The man she had thrown her life away for was gone. The money was gone. The power was gone. All that was left was a woman on her knees in the rain. And me, standing over her. Please, she whispered, please don't leave me like this. I looked down at her, the woman I had loved, the woman I had hated, the woman who had destroyed us both.
Get up, I said.
She looked up, her eyes red and swollen.
What?
Get up.
You're Shen Zhiyi. You built a billion-yuan company.
You stood on stages and commanded boardrooms.
You don't kneel in the rain.
You get up.
Slowly, painfully, she pushed herself to her feet. Her knees were scraped and bleeding. She wobbled and almost fell again. I didn't reach out to steady her. She had to do this herself.
Here is what's going to happen, I said.
I'm not giving you money. I'm not giving you a job. I'm not giving you a place to stay.
You burned all those bridges. But I will do one thing.
I will call the prosecutor and tell him I'm not interested in pursuing the maximum sentence. I'll tell him I'm willing to consider a reduced charge.
Not because you deserve it.
Because I want to be done.
I want this to be over.
She stared at me. Rain dripped from her chin.
Why?
After everything I did, why would you do that?
Because I meant what I said.
Every moment of those 8 years was real. And the man who loved you for 8 years doesn't want to see you rot in prison for 15. He wants to see you become someone worth loving. Maybe that will never happen. Maybe you'll always be the woman who slapped me on our anniversary. But maybe one day you'll be something else.
Someone else.
And that's the woman I'm doing this for. The woman you could be. Not the woman you were.
She didn't say anything.
She just stood there, shaking, crying, bleeding, while the rain slowly stopped and the sun broke through the clouds. I turned around and walked back toward the building. My wet shoes squelched on the pavement.
My suit was ruined.
My hair was a mess.
I didn't care. At the entrance, I paused and looked back. She was still standing there, but she had straightened her shoulders. She was still crying, but she had lifted her chin. It was a small thing.
Almost nothing.
But it was something.
Goodbye, Shen Zhiyi, I said quietly.
I didn't know if she heard me.
It didn't matter. I pushed open the glass doors and walked into the lobby. The security guards stared at me. I ignored them. I took the elevator back up to the top floor. The doors opened onto my office.
My view.
My company.
My life.
I stood at the window and watched the city dry itself under the emerging sun. Steam rose from the streets. Cars honked. People emerged from doorways, shaking out umbrellas and checking their phones. The world was moving on. It always did. 6 months later, Zhihui Group completed its IPO. The stock opened at 42 yuan and closed at 58. The company was valued at 3.2 billion yuan. I stood on the same stage where I had destroyed Shen Zhiyi, but this time the screen showed growth projections and market share. This time the applause was real.
I hired a new CEO.
A woman named Zhou Min, a veteran of the tech industry with a spotless reputation. I stepped back into the shadows where I had always been most comfortable.
I still own 75%.
I still controlled the board. But I didn't need to be on stage anymore. I had done what I needed to do. As for Shen Zhiyi, I heard things. She took a plea deal. 6 months in a minimum security facility, plus 2 years of probation. She served her time and got out. Last I heard, she was working at a small nonprofit in another city, a place that helped underprivileged women start businesses. She was using her skills for something good. Finally, something real. She never tried to contact me again. I never tried to contact her. Some things once broken cannot be fixed. You can only sweep up the pieces and build something new from the fragments. I stood at my window one evening, 6 months after the IPO, and watched the sun set over the city I owned a piece of. The sky was the color of whiskey and gold. The lights were coming on in the towers. Somewhere out there, a woman was rebuilding her life. And somewhere in here, a man was finally living his. I poured myself a glass of Macallan 25, the same whiskey I had drunk the night she slapped me. The night everything began. I raised the glass to the window, to the city, to the past.
To new beginnings, I said quietly.
Then I drank. The whiskey burned warm and clean. Outside, the city glittered. Inside, the penthouse was quiet. For the first time in 8 years, there was no anger in my heart. No bitterness. No grief. Just a vast, open stillness. Peace. That was the word for it. I had finally found peace.